students of African history at Lewis Clark State College, Professor Eric Martin, and I want to talk a little bit. Let's move phone bone out of the direction there, huh? I want to talk a little bit about what we're doing the next 2 weeks in this video because it's like a 2 week segment, right? It's divvied up into do this for week one and do this for week two, but it's all building on things. So I want to spend a little bit of time talking about what we're building up to. And I think the most straightforward way to do this is actually to do it backwards. So we're talking about weeks 4 and 5. Let's talk about week 5. Okay, the main mission for the next couple of weeks is get it together to put together your primary source analysis on this book, Sundiata. And that is due Saturday, February 17th. I know that's a weird day to have it due, but I know some of y'all need that Saturday to get it done. But we also need to be doing stuff during the week, and if you really don't want to do it on Saturday, then do it early, right? So let's talk about what that's going to consist of, what you can expect in the readings, that kind of thing. And then everything that's happening week 4 is prepping you to make this make more sense. All right. So your primary source analysis, it ought to look real familiar. I've based this, for better or for worse, on the Ibn Battuta primary source, right? That this is it's a critical source for getting a glimpse into medieval Mali and what's going on in West Africa. So don't make it harder than it needs to be. The mission is to pick culture, economics, politics, society, and use this as a historian, as a primary source. What can this source tell you about the politics of medieval Mali? What can this source tell you about the economy of medieval Mali? I'm looking for 3 to 4 pages on one of those things, and I want you to connect Ibn Battuta to it. I want you to connect Basil Davidson to it, and we're going to be building up. Sorry, my chair's squeaky. We're going to be building up to doing this for the formal essay because you're going to be connecting them all together. If you got a different thing that you want to do, if there's some other topic that leaps out to you, I'm open to that. Just don't surprise me. Let me know what you're thinking of. But the spirit of the mission has to be this as a historical source. Okay? So that is the primary source analysis. And then to kind of get us moving that way, I've set up this discussion thread, and I've set it up just like the Ibn Battuta thread. I've got a required one so that after you've done your papers, I just want us to give us some grand conclusions. It's okay just to, use a few snippets out of here if you want. It just seems like we need to discuss the book a little bit. I've got the optional discussion here. I don't really know how that should go. I haven't seen the Ibn Battuta one yet, right? It's not due. There's only one posting up right now, so I don't really know. I just kind of have it open as sort of a feel free to participate. I don't know if that's a good idea, but that's how we're doing it this go around, right? So that's the mission there. Now, let me talk to you a little bit about the source itself and It's a little bit of a trick to read. It's a cool read though. So you can see it's not very long. It's like 100 pages. Um, it is not meant to be written down. It is an oral history. It is a story told by, I say a story. It is an oral history. It is a story, but it is an oral history. All right. And it's told by a griot. And I want you to look those folks up. Who are the griots? What is their role? Because you might not quite catch like what the story is if you don't understand who's telling the story, and in many ways who has the right to tell the story, right? And the griots are important in this story. Not only is this a transcription of a modern day griot telling the story, but in the story, surprise, surprise, guess who one of the big heroes of the story is? The griot, right? So the griots tell stories about other griots. And in this particular case, the griots function as as an advisor to the kings. And they function, you can think of it a little bit in the realm of a bard, sort of the herald, somebody trained in the art of like talking. If it was D&D, these are folks who clearly got a 20 on the charisma score and have, expertise in their persuasion skills. But the griots also serve a wider function in terms of preserving the history of their peoples. And you can't just decide to be a griot. You're born into it. And you're born into it, and you're taught techniques of memory and techniques so you can tell the story the same way that you heard the story, and they're saying it the same way they heard the story and they heard the story. And there's pros and cons to that whole scene, and we're going to talk about it, but it's a really cool way of thinking about history. And at one point in time, historians dismissed all this stuff. Oral history, that's just storytelling. If it's not written down, historians don't engage with that kind of thing. That's not the case anymore. When I say at one point in time, 30, 40 years ago, the idea was, well, that stuff's for anthropologists. Historians are looking into oral histories now. And I love just some of the setup here. I'm not going to go into a whole lot of it, really. But on page 1, this book is meant to be read out loud. Read it to your kids. I am a griot. It is I, Jele, and that's another word for griot. Mamado Kyoto, son of Binto Kyoto, and Jele Kiden Kyoto, master in the art of eloquence. Since time immemorial, the Kyotos have been in the service of the Kieta princes of Mali. We are vessels of speech. We are repositories which harbor secrets many centuries old. The art of eloquence has no secrets for us. Without us, the names of kings would vanish into oblivion. We are the memory of mankind. By the spoken word, we bring to life the deeds and exploits of kings for younger generations. I derive my knowledge from my father, Gilekidian, who also got it from his father. History holds no mystery for us. We teach to the vulgar just as much as we want to teach, for it is we who keep the keys to the 12 doors of Mali. It's an interesting combination of personal interjection and the story. And so as we're going through the tale, pay attention to the role of the griot in the preservation of memory and the preservation of history. Um, there's a whole list of characters and of different kinds of themes that you're liable to run into at the very beginning of the book. Maybe that's only in the revised edition if you've got the red book, right? They've got all the characters' names, a number of the different themes, kings and councils, tributary relationships, religion, the role of Islam, the role of sorcerers, the role of farmers, the different kinds of castes, the blacksmiths. There's magic in the book. There's the tale of how the different ethnic groups became friends or enemies or got the right to, give a different ethnic group, crap. There's a pretty good map at the very beginning of it that kind of shows you the area. All right, look that stuff up, kind of get an idea about where it's at. Do just a little bit of recon. Sometimes you'll see this spent Sunjata. Doesn't matter, right? Keep track of the characters, but don't get overwhelmed with it. And I don't want to hear about how these names are so foreign. I can't remember all these names because I hear you guys talking about Frodo and Aragon and Gandalf, and man, those names are not any easier than these. So figure it out. All right, now so one of the ways we're going to do this is through this discussion board. So this optional discussion, you guys just feel free to talk about this epic as you go. Hey, what's happening? Hey, I thought it was really cool when they did this. Hey, did you guys catch this? We could do all kinds of different things on it. There's all kinds of proverbs that are brought up in here. I can imagine, really cool, discussion just on the, proverbs in Mali. Because that gives you ideas about values and cultures and that kind of stuff. Now, it's an easy read, all right? But don't put it off until the night before, because it takes a little bit of time to get your head around some of the stuff that's happening, all right? And so to encourage, let me double check something here. So to help us get into it, we've got the stuff from week 4. Remember I said week 4 and week 5 are connected. So week 5, you have to have the book finished. We have to have some discussions about the book going on. What does it tell us? How does it compare to Ibn Battuta? All that kind of stuff. But to get us going on this, we're going to watch a film called Quieta, Heritage of the Griot. That is a pretty interesting film in and of itself. Now, you can watch it from home through the film on demand from the LCSC library. Don't wait till the last second, because lots of times you have to call the library to get a password or find out what your password is, okay? So make sure you get that all squared away. It's an hour and a half. So I want to talk about the film for a second. The film covers like the first 26 pages of the book. And so the first part of the book is in the film. You get a visual representation of Mali. You get an idea about what the story is. And then you can take what you see in the film and just finish the reading, right? And then go along with it. The film is family friendly. All right, so if you want to sit down with your kids and watch the film, it's fine. It's actually a really fun film. However, and here's the however, okay? African film is different, okay? African film is different. And if you've never seen an African film before, you're in for a treat. This is a good one. But the film is not made for you and I. The film is made to look at issues in Africa. It's made to look at the Epic of Sundiata. The film is in subtitles, okay? So you're going to have to read the film, right? Just get used to it. That's just the way things go. So English subtitles. The languages, two languages in the film, are French and Bambara. And the director has the characters go in between French and Bambara for particular reasons, and I'll talk about that in a second. The film, let's talk about the film a little bit. And in order to help you, well, let's talk about the film for a minute. The film is it's two parallel stories, and they go back and forth between the two stories. Okay? And one of the stories is this story. Okay? The other story is about a modern day griot who leaves the village and goes to find a boy, Mabo, because it's time for Mabo's initiation. And part of Mabo's initiation is that Mabo is to learn the meaning of his name. And the meaning of his name is learned through the telling of the story. So you can imagine that, the griot shows up and then goes into telling the story, and then there's sort of a flash into medieval Mali as he tells the story. However, in the modern world, there's a whole other story going on as far as the role of the griot in the 21st century is concerned, how Mabo's parents react to the initiation, how Mabo's teacher reacts to this kind of education versus the I don't know if he's in middle school or high school. He's ninth grade-ish, that kind of thing. So just hang with the two different stories going on because they're both important and they're both pretty cool. Now, to help you along with that, I have included this piece from California Newsreel. It's pretty cool. It gives a quick breakdown on the film. There's a short essay here on the film you can go to, just kind of get an idea. I don't know if I'd do it beforehand. You can if you want. But after the film, all these discussion questions are pretty cool to think about. How the different and the filmmakers are cool, so I'm not going to give any spoilers. But for example, there's a wedding scene in here, and there's a wedding scene in the modern world, and they kind of parallel each other as they're doing things. So what's the differences and all that kind of stuff. So you might be able to use this to get some mileage for your discussion. But really the whole point of this part of it is to jumpstart your ability to understand the book. All right? That's the mission. So the film, super fun. I think it's super fun. I've watched it so many times. I'm looking forward to it again. Now, I wish we could only do the carrot, but sometimes we got to do the stick too, right? So, learning through discussion outline. All right, Professor Martin. I'll need to get that squared away here. But I want you to put together a learning through discussion outline using the learning through discussion outline format. I'll have that all fixed up for you when it's time. Submit that thing. Looking at, the main issues in the film and some discussion questions. And then I want you to use that discussion outline to have a conversation about the heritage of the griot. All right. So this is by the end of the day, Saturday, February 10th. Listen, I'm trying to replicate a discussion that we have in my regular face-to-face classes where we all watch the film, we all put together a learning through discussion outline, we come to class for one day, and it's like, what did you guys think about the film? And it's always a super cool discussion. We don't need anything more than the one page of the notes on that. You guys take your one page of notes and make a fun discussion happen. All right? It's interesting. And then just keep in mind that part of that discussion about the film is making sure that you understand what's up with this. I think that gets us to sort of what I want you to do, right? So, week 4, we're watching Quieta, Heritage of the Griot. We're doing some recon on contemporary griots. We are reading the first 30 pages of this, and then week 5, we're finishing the rest of this. We are conducting a discussion about it to just sort of talk about the book and keep up with what's going on. And then you're going to submit a formal primary source analysis on what we learn about medieval Mali, right, from the book here, keeping in mind that when it comes time for our formal essays at the end, we will be building on Basil Davidson and Ibn Battuta and the Heritage of the Griot film and this. So slowly we're just putting all our sources together. All right. Now, one final thing. Go to the formal essay assignment and notice it says one source of your choice. So find you a book about something related to Africa. Any subject you want, run it by me, and then we'll talk about what we're going to do with that, but don't put that off to the end. All right, if you've got any questions, pop by my virtual office hours, send me email through the Canvas inbox or whatever, and enjoy your historical studies.